Let's talk about locking down our Android devices. When it comes to protecting these devices, one thing we need to start teaching our users, if they don't have these enabled already, most phones automatically have that enabled, but make sure that we're using screen locks, especially on tablet-based devices. And make sure that we have a conversation about downloading official Android apps from the market itself. Another way to help protect us is to update our devices with Google Android antivirus software. Update the operating system. This is one that I find gets overlooked quite often. We get the notifications that there's one that's needed to be installed, and we think, oh, we'll do it later, and we postpone it, and then, yeah, we forget about it. I think, Kevin, some of the newer phones today are now saying, okay, we'll just do it in the middle of the night for you. Make sure that we use a protector app to assign passwords. So we could do things like assign passwords to text messages and email accounts. Customize the lock home screen with user information so that they don't have to get in to find out who the phone belongs to. Make sure also that we use antivirus or some type of malware protection. Again, I'm not going to give you a this is the best product out there speech. It's all a personal preference. Use multiple accounts if your device is shared with other people. This is rarely the case in today's world, but it does happen. Make sure that you're also using a VPN when you're not on your own network. You know my saying, if you're using a device on someone else's network without a VPN, it may not be your device anymore. Also, make sure that we encrypt the device. This is one of those things that just kind of perplex me, that people don't encrypt their device. They think that their fingerprint or a PIN is going to stop an attacker. If I've got a cable and a laptop and I can plug into your device, if it's not encrypted, you're going to be in trouble. Also, disable Wi-Fi when you're not using it. Uninstall unused apps. Let me tell you what I mean by this if I haven't drilled this one into you enough yet. If you don't need Uber for the next week, uninstall it. You can simply reinstall it very, very easily. All my travel apps, I uninstall when I'm done traveling for a given period of time. Obviously, if you do a lot of traveling, or maybe you live in the big city where you use Uber every single day, I get that. But again, review your apps and find out which ones you're not using that often. It's a performance issue as well. The more apps you have, the more memory is being utilized. Use a password manager. Man, if I could get up on a soapbox and preach to everybody, it would be this. Make sure that you use some type of password manager to help keep your passwords separate. We don't use duplicate or recycle passwords over and over. You let a password manager take care of that for us. Also, any application that offers two-factor authentication or 2FA, take advantage of that. You'll thank me later. Now, I know I mentioned earlier about our lock screen, but make sure you put some user information on it. Let me show you mine. This is exactly, well, it may or may not have a particular Dark Knight image on my lock screen, but I had to take it off for copyright issues. As you can see, I'm social engineering you here a bit. I mentioned here that GPS and tracking mode is enabled. It is, but I've done this since before the time that we had Find My Phone features. And then it says, if found, please contact, and I list my phone number. No, not this cell phone number, because obviously they'd just be calling this cell phone. I list my wife's number. You could also list a parent or sibling's number, somebody that they could contact that would then get a hold of you, give you a hard time that you lost your number, and return the item to you. We also want to make sure that we avoid rooting our devices. I know, I've told you in the past that I do it myself. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do moments. Again, there's a risk involved, and if you're okay with that risk, that's fine, because you're taking this course, you know about the risks. But a standard user shouldn't be rooting their device. And avoid giving permissions to apps that aren't needed. Again, a game should never need my contact information or any of my contacts, nor should a game necessarily know my location. Okay, maybe if you're playing something like Pokemon Go, it might use a location-based feature in their application, but you get the point, right? And avoid downloading APKs from anywhere. That includes torrents. Now, I've had some particular situations where I've had to download an APK because it wasn't allowed on the Android store. And it was kind of an interesting situation. It has to deal with a parenting app for monitoring your kids' phones. So they gave me a link to their APK, and I was able to install it and use the application. Again, very, very far few between situations like that. I think in my career and my usage of phones, I can only think about 2 different times that I've had to legitimately use or sideload an APK. Here's one for you as well. Older devices can pose a significant threat to you and your resources. Here's the kicker. After a couple of years, you will no longer have operating system upgrade support from the manufacturer. In fact, in 2022, Samsung finally announced that they would expand their OS support for new devices from 3 years to 4 years. And that's about where all manufacturers are. But again, after 4 years, or after that time frame, you're basically going to be forced to upgrade when you think about it. But it's important to know that older devices being used on your organizations can, again, create a significant threat. So be aware. Okay, after we go through our learning checks, let's move on to the Apple side of things.